Welcome to the War Room. G'day guys, this is Broadcasting Because, and today I'm going to turn somewhat tactician for the Sydney Swans as I try and work out how they're going to use Buddy Franklin, how he's going to slot in, and what his role is going to be for the Swans in season 2014 and onwards. I don't want to do this to death, but I want to run through a couple of scenarios that I think are very, very likely after looking at what's gone on with how his role has been at Hawthorn, because I think there's a lot of similarities you can draw, particularly between the ruck and forward combinations. We look at Hale, Franklin, and Roughhead at Hawthorn, and now you have Mike Pike, Franklin, and Tippett at the Swans. So I think there's a couple of scenarios we'll run through, and I'll try and work out exactly how Buddy is going to fit into this Sydney Swans team. So guys, if you take a look at the graphic on your screen right now, I reckon that this is the default lineup for the Sydney Swans. I reckon this would be their go-to structure for their forward line and for the followers as well. We'll start off from the bottom looking at Kennedy and Jack roving to Mike Pike. Pike is now the number one ruckman at the Sydney Swans since Shane Mumford has gone to the GWS Giants. They're big, big shoes to fill figuratively and literally, but I reckon Pike's up to it. We all saw how we've all watched him mature as a ruckman and as a footballer as well, coming across from Canada, and as a rugby player, he's built, he's strong, he was made to be a ruckman, and I think that those shoes will be filled very, very well. Mike Pike is more than capable of doing that. He's a big, strong player. He played quite a bit in the forward line in 2013 and a little bit in 2012 as well. I can guarantee we'll see a lot more rotations between him and Tippett. Speaking of Tippett, he'll settle in the full forward line. He's the biggest and strongest of the Swans players, so it makes sense for him to be the full forward. I reckon Luke Parker and Benny McGlynn, they're small, they're feisty, and they're very, very clean with their goal kicking. They'll be around him on either side. Up in the centre-half forward line, this is where it is absolutely star-studded for the Sydney Swans. How many forward lines, or how many half-forward flanks in the competition will be able to boast names like Goods, Franklin, and O'Keefe, and they would be fighting for spots in there as well. There's guys like Hannanbury and McVeigh who would love to be up there, I'm sure, as well. Lance Franklin has made himself a career at centre-half forward, and I reckon the way that he looked for Roughhead a lot more when he was able to get the ball about 70-80 metres out from goal for Hawthorn in their premiership year in 2013, he turned around a lot more. Instead of trying to bang it every time from 80 metres, he tried a couple of times, and sometimes it came off, but he was lowering his eyes a lot more, and he was able to hit Roughhead, and the role that Jared Roughhead played at Hawthorn was now the goal scorer. He didn't have the best year in front of goal that he's ever had. He didn't have the best year he's ever had in 2012 either, but the fact that Jared Roughhead was able to step up as a result of Buddy getting his hands on the ball a lot more, we saw in the 2013 Grand Final just how far up the field he was playing. He was gathering balls off the half-back line, and he was gathering balls all the way through the midfield as well. It's his delivery, I think, to Kurt Tippett that's going to be essential in the Swans kicking goals and the Swans winning games. It worked for Hawthorn in 2013 with Jared Roughhead, and even when Buddy didn't have a great game, Roughhead was good enough to get the ball, and even when Roughhead didn't have a great game, Buddy Franklin was good enough to step up and kick the goals in his place. It's going to be a very interesting relationship between Kurt Tippett and Lance Franklin. We know how strong Tippett is. We know how good an overhead mark he is. He's every bit as good, I believe, as Roughhead is. And I hope, as a Swans fan and as a fan of watching good football, I hope to see that relationship really, really fire in season 2014. I mentioned Shane Mumford's departure to GWS earlier, and what that does to the Swans is it leaves them with only the one primary ruckman in Mike Pike. So what that means is we're going to be seeing a lot more of Tippett playing in the ruck. It'll be a very similar role, I think, to what he did at the Adelaide Crows. He'll be spending about 50% of the time as a full forward, 50% of the time in the ruck. So when he moves to the ruck, I think we're going to be seeing some shifts and some shuffling in the positioning of Buddy Franklin and Adam Goods. I reckon that when Tippett's in the ruck, we'll see Franklin push up into the goal square. He'll sit there for half the time and make leads to guys like Adam Goods, who will shift over from the half-forward flank and settle in as the centre half-forward. Goodsy will be the target, there's no doubt about that. Ryan O'Keefe may even push a bit more up the ground to try and get the ball out wide and then deliver it straight into Adam Goods, who can in turn dish it off to Buddy Franklin. I think Franklin would be a fantastic relief for Kurt Tippett up forward. It'll get Tippett more on the ball, and Buddy Franklin loves to push up the ground anyway, so he'd naturally want to make those leads. He's a fantastic out and front marker. He's fantastic over his head. He can take them anywhere, he can kick them from anywhere, and with delivery from guys like Adam Goods, I reckon he will get first class service. The other option, of course, is to give Mike Pike a bit more time up in the forward line. I love the way that he rotated with Mumford throughout 2013, particularly during the time that Tippett was out of the side and before we got Tippett. Mike Pike really put his foot down as a target inside the forward line. He ended up with the second most contested marks of anyone in the competition, second only to Travis Cloak, and he was an absolute deadeye in front of goal as well. I love Mike Pike. I love him as an athlete. Although I would probably prefer Buddy to fill in at full forward whenever Tippett's in the ruck, I'd still love to see Mike Pike play a role up there. I know he's got a lot to contribute to the team in the forward line. He's an underrated player. He's an absolute gun, and he's loved by everyone at the Swans. I still think he's got a lot to contribute to the Swans in the forward line. So guys, that's my sort of breakdown of where I think Buddy Franklin is going to fit in and how the Swans forward line and ruck structures are going to have to be tweaked when he comes into the side. It's going to be very interesting to draw comparisons, and I know there'll be a lot of comparisons drawn between Hale, Franklin and Roughhead, and Pike, Franklin and Tippett. Throw Goodsey in the mix in there as well. It's a very, very dangerous looking forward line. Look out, defenders, in 2014, because that one is going to be very, very difficult to stop. I know the season's a very long way away, guys, but with the news of this signing, I'm absolutely over the moon, and I can't wait for 2014 to start. So guys, be sure to mash that like button if you enjoyed this video, and hit that subscriber button if you would like to see more. Subscribing to me is like giving me a virtual high five, and everyone loves high fives. Be sure to leave a comment in the section below of how you think Buddy Franklin is going to slot into the Swans lineup. How do you think he's going to go? Is he going to be the best forward we've ever seen? Is he going to fade away? Is he going to get lost in the forward line? Is he going to become a ruckman? Is he going to be one of the best players we've ever seen pull on a Swans jersey? Be sure to leave that comment below. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video just as something a little bit different. Cheers, guys, and stay tuned.